Hey everybody, it's Brad. So here's part two of what we were just doing with those 3-click curves in this quilting design here. So I'm just going to finish making this design, and we're going to learn about start and stop points as well as this 3-click curve here. So I am going to look at this design, and we're going to go ahead and figure out how we can make this one continuous line as it goes all the way through this design. And it looks to me like what we should do is come out and do this little curve next. Okay, but if we're going to do this little curve next, then this part of the design, which is the first part of the design that's going to sew out, needs to stop right here rather than wherever it's stopping now. So we want the design to start, well, where it starts doesn't really matter. We can have it start up here, have it start down there. We want it to stop right there so that this next part of the design will start here and go on, and there'll be no jump stitches and no need for any trims. So the way we do that is, again, with our reform tool. Once we have our line as a straight stitch, which if you hadn't turned your design that we made into a straight stitch, you just go up to apply stitches and choose run. Okay, and then that makes that into a stitch. I didn't really do that. I didn't really focus on that in the last video. So make sure that your first line that you did is actually a running stitch. But once we have it as stitches and we choose the reform tool, we still see our curves and our points, but we actually have this green dot and this red dot. The green dot is where it starts and the red dot is where it stops. So we want it to stop right here because that's where the start is going to be for the next segment in our design. Alright, so we're going to let it start in the middle. That's just where it's starting. And we're going to stop it right here. Okay. So once you have that, you can just hit the select tool. That'll generate that, and we're ready to move on to the next section. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this line. We're going to use the click 3 curve. We go up to artwork, choose click 3 curve, and it looks like what we should do is click here, here, and here. But look what that does. It creates this bowed out line, and then if we try and use our reform tool to force the lines into place, it's really tough. It's possible to get it so that it's close, but it's never going to be exactly perfect. Like I can kind of force these down, but see, when you try to edit the other side, then it flips it all around. It's just, this isn't really the right way to do it, because what this really is here is two separate curves. There's a curve here and then a curve here, and it's different than on this one where we did it, because these two curves are they're connected in a more natural way. Like these two are just too far apart for this tool to do it, but that's okay because the tool's made for that. We just have to do it in two sections. So the first section, let's go back up to artwork, click 3 curve. The first section, we're going to start here, and then we're going to click somewhere along the line, and then all the way at the top. That's our first curve, and then we do our second curve is going to be, here's the middle and here's the end. And now this we can work with much easier than we could the other way. So we've got this line drawn in here. I just right clicked to generate that. And then we're going to go up to our reform tool, and we can go and work on our curve to get it perfect. We just click to get our handles. If you can't see the handles, sometimes you have to zoom in to really be able to see them. See, now I can see this. Okay, and sometimes you have to reposition where your middle dot is, and you can do that just by left clicking and dragging. And then remember, you have to select your middle dot again to get it so that it'll let you move the lines, and then we'll select the middle dot on this curve and adjust the placement of these little handles. And I just go back and keep clicking on it to get my handles back. And there, that is pretty good. Okay, so we're going curving up to here and then curving back down to here. Okay, so now we want to double check. Well, first we have to turn it into stitches, actually. So we're going to go up to apply stitches and choose run. Now we have to double check where our start and our stop points are here. Now I believe that it's going to start here and stop here because that's just the direction that I drew it, but you want to double check that. So we go up to the reform tool and look, and sure enough, our green dot is all the way up here, our red dot is all the way down here. Okay, So now we have the beginnings of our design. And if you look at this design, it's kind of like a pinwheel. It goes, this is the same as this. So we can, all we have to do is repeat this this series of shapes around in a circle pretty much, and we'll have it. Now I'm noticing, let me zoom in here, I'm noticing that this doesn't line up exactly right here. So we can actually go in and adjust this. We'll select it in our sequence view. We'll go back to the reform tool and we'll move this point a little bit so that it lines up and there's not any overlap there where it's kind of sticking out too far. So you can always do that. You can move your points around and it won't adjust the curve as long as it's only a small movement. Alright, so it's still dead on. I just moved it so that there wasn't that little bit poking out. Okay, so how do we go about getting this shape down here? Well, for this one, what we can do is select both of these lines. So we'll just go and select them in the sequence view. We can just click and drag a box around them and we get both of those lines. And we're going to copy and paste it. So we're going to right click and choose copy, and then we'll right click again and choose paste. And now we have another kind of iteration of what we did that's there, and it's by default anything you copy and paste goes right on top of itself. So it looks like there's one thing here, but we can see in our sequence view that there's two sets of these. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go up to modify and we're going to rotate this. We're going to rotate it to the right, which is basically a 90-degree rotation, and then we'll just click and drag this into place down here. We see that everything lines up pretty much. And it's off a little tiny bit, and I think that's because the drawing itself is actually not exactly symmetrical. I think whoever drew this didn't draw a perfectly symmetrical curve. So we can either go in and edit this curve. We can do that by selecting it, go back to the Home tab, go to Reform, and we could actually adjust this so that it looks perfectly exactly like our original artwork. But we may as well just make it symmetrical. We can actually make our design better than the original design, really. I mean, we're using the mathematical curve tool, like it is exactly the same, this one and this one. So it actually, we're seeing the imperfection in the artwork that we're tracing. Interestingly enough, guess they didn't use the 3-click curve tool to draw this, huh? Anyway, there's still something we have to do. We have to change our start point with this, because look at where my start point is on this now. The start point is in the middle, which is where it was in the first one. In the first one, it didn't matter, okay, because it started, there wasn't anything there. But if we allow this to go, look what happens. We're gonna, down here at the bottom, if you left click and drag, it'll actually give you a preview of how the design's gonna sew out. So I'm left clicking and dragging this bar, and I can see how it's sewing out. It goes down here, and then it stops there on that segment and begins the next segment, comes down, and look at this jump from there to there, jumps from there to there. That's either going to be a trim or a big jump stitch, depending on your machine. And we want to avoid those. We want this design to flow as organically as possible. So what we have to do is go in and change our start point for this segment. We go up to Reform, and we're going to grab this green dot and we're going to drag it right up to where the stop was on our previous segment, which is this one. Okay, so our stop is right there and our start is right here. Now this one is right already because we had already had the stop point directly on top of that for the first one that we drew. Okay, so now if we go and watch it sew out, we can see it goes up and around, and it starts and stops in just the right spots. Okay, now we need the next part of our pinwheel here, and you would think that we'd be able to just do the same thing over again, right? Another 90-degree angle. Let's do it. Right click, copy, right click, paste, and then go up to modify, and we're going to rotate right and place it. Wait a minute, it doesn't line up. That's not how this design goes. This is actually mirror imaged side to side. It's not rotated all the way around. These two sides are mirror images of one another. So what we actually have to do, we'll go ahead and delete this. Just hit the delete key. What we have to do is take this segment here and mirror image it. We don't mirror image both sides because this part is not actually a mirror image of this part, right? This part is kind of rotated that way. So we actually only want this like leaf type segment to be mirror imaged. So we're going to copy and paste just that one segment. Then we're going to go up in our Modify tab. We're going to choose Flip Horizontal, which is another way of saying mirror image. We're going to left click on that and now drag this over, and look, now it lines up just right. Okay, so we move it in there, get it so that it's all lined up. Again, we see that the curve is off, and I don't think that's us. That's that's the original design is just off. But we get it lined up, and now what are we going to have to do again? We're going to have to change our start and stop points, because even though this one was right for here, we just mirror imaged it, which means we'll go up to Home and Reform. Our start and our stops are on the wrong side. So we're going to take our start and move it down here. We're going to grab our stop and move it up here. Okay. So our start is right here where it's supposed to be, and our stop is right here where it's supposed to be. And now the next thing we have to do is take our little middle point here, our little curve that we made, and we're going to take this, we're going to copy, we're going to paste it. This one we're going to rotate right. So we're going to go back up to Modify, rotate right, and place it right where it's going to go. Okay, so we've got that. And now this, we can take these two shapes. I'll hold down the Control key and select both of them in the sequence view. That's really the easiest way to do it. So we take these two shapes. We're going to again right-click Copy, right-click Paste. We're going to rotate right. Line it up. We can actually see that this doesn't line up with our original artwork all that well, but we can move these. There we go. Now let's hide our backdrop so we can see what we've got to work with here. So we're going to go Home, go to Backdrop Tool, and click on Show Backdrop. That'll get rid of our backdrop. And there is our design. And we can watch it sew out. There's no crazy jumps. There it is. Now, the points, I didn't get these lined up exactly right, so we'd want to go in and manually move everything so that it lines up. So we could take this and put everything right on point here. And now we're not going by the original artwork, we're going by what we're seeing in our own design. So, oh, here's an interesting case. We need to move this point. See how it's overlapping right here? We can't because the stop point is right there. You actually have to move your stop points out of the way sometimes. Same with the start point. And then put them back. Now, nothing happened, right? Because I didn't right-click. You right-click to generate. Always right-click to generate when you move your lines around. And so we do the same thing anywhere that there's either a gap or an overlap. Everything actually looks okay. There's a little bit of a gap on this one here, so we could click on it, move our stop point out of the way, move this over a little bit, put our stop point back. But anyway, now we've got this design. It's all perfect curves that we've drawn, but we only had to draw a couple of them. And our start and our stop points are solid all the way around. So this design would be a good one. We could take and save it and use it as quilting on a quilt block. I mean, this was a pretty simple shape, but this is just an idea of the power of using the artwork tools that are provided to you in this program to create curves that look really, really nice. And anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll see you in the next video.